Like, I do really believe this level of responsibility is the way of the future.
And do you think that companies that still operate in those old traditional ways that are very patriarchal, do you think they'll self-destruct? What's your view on that?
Karen, did you have something else to say?
So it's very fresh for me coming out of corporate and really seeing these exact examples of everything that you're talking about. On top of the question that Robin asked is, how do you break that door open? How do you get in the door to places that may not be receptive? And then the other part is that energetically within these organizations that Robin just described, there are people that are wanting that and will leave if they don't get that. So it's a dynamic that seems to be almost to be energetically opposed. And so you get in there and try to balance that.
Because we know some of those people, right? Who's running these organizations, and how do you get in there? How do you start to make that change?
So I'm going to speak first to Karen's and then comes to Robin's. Yeah. The thing about Karen's question is I'm not here to prove it. I'm not here to try and convince those organizations that are really stuck in their old ways and have no interest in evolution. I'm not here to do that.
Bravo.
And I'm going to answer your question, Robin, too, as the individual, because it is the micro and the macro. When I work with clients, I do a lot of healing work as well. Like a big part of my development is astrology, but it's also in like, how do we heal what is there in order to feel a sense of courage and confidence in moving forward and like really unblock us from certain patterns that hold us in those specific cycles that are very traditional or it's one way of being. And I cannot want the healing for my client more than they want it for themselves because I'm not doing the work. I'm here to guide you.
Right. I think for everybody listening or watching, that is very key. When you are a healing practitioner, but the person who actually does the healing and does the work is the individual. And that is something that it's important for people to understand, that you have to want to do the work because you will be the one doing it. You're just helping facilitate it.
Yes, exactly. They have to want it. And the only way that there is going to be sustainable growth and change is for them to take ownership. And I want that for my clients. I want them to feel empowered. They don't need me to do their work. My role as a facilitator, as an astrologer, as a breathwork practitioner is not to create a codependent relationship where they need me to move forward. Let me help you. And then we may always do check-ins for astrology because the astrology is always changing, but I want you to feel empowered and really embodied and confident and courageous in your life. So that's the answer to Karen's question. And there's so many organizations out there and executives that are into it and are interested. And I think this Pluto and Aquarius transit is 20 years. Like we are going to be dismantling these systems. Buckle up because we're going on a ride. And it's going to be a while. This isn't like overnight change. No. And I don't even know if at the end of those 20 years, we'll be at the exact change we want, but I know we're going to be making some breakthroughs. And so think about in 20 years, who are going to be the executives at the organization?
That's right.
It's going to be a very different landscape.
Yeah.
Who's growing up like you, Karen. My daughter is 16 right now, but she's growing up in a home where we talk about her birth chart. We talk about crystals and energy healing, and those are going to be her tools and resources. So I think that's a really good point.
And Catie, my heart is so full because I know how needed it is.
And so this is because I want to make sure I answer your question, Robin, and how I see it is that, and they may not fully self-destruct. It may not be like that organization ends up completely going under, but it's just like the individual. You can operate at a super numb, really, I operated here up until I was about 27 years old, just really numbed out, barely getting by, thinking that this was as good as it gets. And I wasn't even gracing like a fifth of my potential. But if you are open to change and growth and evolution and bringing in new ideas and fresh perspectives and truly breaking through where you are stuck as an individual or as a business, that's when you really start to maximize potential. And so, yeah, these companies may still exist, but they're never going to really be able to thrive from a cultural perspective, from a bottom line perspective, because we know that engaged employees, when you are in a position where you feel seen and celebrated and people want you there, you want to be there.
That's right.
So you're going to have an organization that is maybe not meeting its potential financially, not meeting its potential from a cultural perspective, and it's just existing at the
That's a great
bottom level.
And one question too, when you're with one of the aspects in which you work with these teams, are you actually looking at each person on that team's chart and then how they work together, as well as also the company's chart somewhat?
Yeah, it depends on the exact client, because if there's a team that has 20 people versus a smaller team of 10, we have to adjust and adapt a little bit of the content to be approachable. But we would have, in some instances, that everyone has their individual chart. And so just like I walked through everything with you, we would be walking through. And if we're looking at like how we communicate, we're looking just at Mercury, and we're going to talk about Mercury through different signs and different houses. And it's not only fun to learn more about yourself, but it's engaging, because that in and of itself creates a connective tissue or fabric that is felt not just in the individual, but on the collective kind of levels.